You join me here at a little lake that's close to my home and close to my heart. During this session, I'm going to explain to you how prepping your bait at home and making little tweaks to your bait can enhance your chances of keeping the bites coming during the colder months. As per usual, Dad's already got his rods out, so while you go up and see him and find out a little bit more information about the lake, I'm going to empty this van and get set up.
Here we are, favourite time of the year, well into autumn. We're on a Lincolnshire lake, high up on the wolds. It's low stock water, fishing a bit. It's not done a fish in October, it's fishing really dodgy, like a lot of the lakes are doing, to be quite honest, but with this being low stocked, it makes it all the more a little bit more harder, but it's good fun. You're waiting for that first diddly-dee if it comes. Getting a lot of cold rain in at the minute, which doesn't help any lake this time of the year, but the fish are rewarding in here. Some very, very old fish. They go to excess of 50-year-old, commons and mirrors. There's the A team, which, you know, they're very old, and then we've got a backup to them, 𝗏𝗺s and 𝗖𝗔𝗥𝗣𝗏𝗏s, which are very old again, commons and mirrors, and then there's some stockies. There's about, I should say, it's about 55 to 60 fish in here. It's almost 4 acre, big depth to it, an abundance of natural food, freshwater snails, freshwater shrimps have just got to swim about. But it's you know, it's what gives you your big fish. It's not the lake you come up to get a bite and go home. You know, you can sometimes, as I say, it's not actually done a bite the whole of this month. So, you know, to get a bite, if we can get a bite while we're here, it'd be really good.
Well, that's the gear up the hill and the rod's out. I've got one rod in 12 foot, one rod in 14 foot and one rod in 16 foot. Like I say, I know the venue quite well, fished it quite a few times, so I believe the areas that I put the rods, I think the fish will be beside them sort of areas, that's where they'll be. I put the rods in the deep sort of water because, again, at the time of the year, I think it'll hold the temperature better. I put a little bit of pellet, a little bit of boil over them, nothing too much. I'm just fishing for a bite. I don't want to fill them up. It's a low stock lake. So like I say, the rods are out. They're in favourable areas, there's bait over the top of them. I don't believe at this stage there's a lot more I can do. So I'm going to sit and watch the water now, look for any signs, whether it be a subtle show, knocking reeds, a flat spot on the water, anything like that, because something like that can give away a lot of information, and then, if so, I can move rods accordingly.
Right, we're just coming out of, obviously well out of summer now, we're well into autumn, and it is massively important to my fishing to get your bait choice right, to start looking at, make the decision what you're going to go on, get it going in, how you're going to use it. I use a massive amount of 𝗵 in winter, but I've caught a lot of good sized fish getting the right boilie going into a lake this time of the year, and I do think it's critical to get it right. As I say, I am on the prototype peanut bait from Mainline at the minute, so I don't know how that's going to go. So, you know, we're putting a little bit of peanut oil in with it, and it is looking after us. But as we get these first frosts and that, I mean, I think in this last week the water temperature's gone down 5 degrees, so and you've got the cold rain falling through, and that's a big player with a bait you go in with. You know, a safe bait, something like 𝗏 or something like that. We call them safe baits, but basically we have to field test the baits for Mainline. We're out in the weathers to see how to work, and, you know, as I say, in winter I do tend to turn towards 𝗵 and large amounts of 𝗵, but boilies are always there. They're always on the 3rd rod, or if you can fish 4 rods, they're always on the 4th rod, and this is so crucial this time as the leaves start falling off, the water temperature's dipping. You know, like it's apparent the fish aren't moving at all in daylight on the lake we're on at the moment. You get a little bit of a show sort of hour in, and then maybe 10 to midnight you'll get a few shows, and you've got to be really on your toes to see that they're moving, and everything slows down. So you're so bait dependent then. You pick you know, like a lot of the anglers will pick the spots where they're going to feed. It's crucial to get the right lake, get your bait sorted out, what you're going to go on. Yeah, you can do a bait change, sort of like end of November into December. I've done it before. I don't know what this bait's going to fish like. It might not fish right through winter. It might carry on fishing. So, you know, you've got to have a plan B. I've always fallen back on 𝗏 or hybrid. Hybrid's been my favourite bait. But you know, like a boilie isn't just a boilie. You can do so much with a boilie now. You can put it through the ridge monkey turner, you can crush it up, you can make it dust, you can apply it to whether you're fishing a long way out, whether you're on a big lake with a big tow. All this has got to be brought into mind. You've got to get it to the bottom because, again, we're coming into the storm period where you've got a lot of wind on lakes, you know, so it's crucial that your bait's going down to the bottom. So getting that, the right texture. So your bait, you can have a bait for a stormy day, you can have a bait for a calm day, and it can be the same day. It depends how you crush it up, you know, whether you leave it as an old boilie, half it. You know, an half boilie will get carried in tow as it wobbles down like a leaf falling from a tree. A 10mm boilie will go straight down even though it's lighter because it's a round thing that goes down. So you've got to read the situation, how you're feeding it. I still like to feed little and often right through winter and coming into this part of the year. But what will tell you how the bait's passing, if you've had a fish in a retainer till you know, if the lads that like taking the pictures of them, and you set your camera gear up and you get it out the retainer on an hooking mat and it's passing the bait through, and it's passing out like this peanut bait we're using, it is passing loads through, which tells me it's very digestible, so that should go through the winter. These are all things to look for. You want that bait to pass through, you know, like it's good to put sweet corn in a mix unless you've got 2,000 tufties on a lake, and then you don't want to be bringing them over to where you're fishing. It's all things like that, you know. Sometimes I drop really good ingredients out of bait knowing that I don't want to get the duck life over. So, you know, like, can you put a bit of, if you can use naturals, can you drop a bit of maggot, a bit of castor, a bit of chopped worm in with your boilies? I don't fish those sort of lakes, so basically it's all about the boilie to me. So, as I say, the boilie, it can be the round boilie, it can be, depending on how many times you want to crush it up. But I mean, hemp as well, you can put that boilie dust in with the hemp and use it heavy liquided and get it out there, as long as you're getting that down to the bottom, so you're presenting it and you're fishing over it. That's a big factor. If they're passing it through in the retainer, that's always a good sign of a good cold water bait. You know, things like this, things that might get overlooked, you know, they maybe won't, but I always make sure that a fish is passing a bait through, because if it is, you're onto something. You're onto a bait that a fish wants to eat. The last thing you want to be doing is giving them loads of pellet and glugging the belly up, and you know, it's not the way to go on in winter. Little and often, put it in when you're on a good bait. Your confidence is there. If it's bad weather and you haven't caught out, you know it's not your bait. You know your bait you're using's working. It's down to, you know, like people say, well, do you really put so much emphasis on storms? Yes, storms in winter can catch you fish. You've got to be in the right place. You've got to bait right. You've got to know how much to put in. You've got to know when to put it in, when not to put it in, when to start re-putting it in. When you get all this right, it all becomes a lot easier. Pick a lake with winter form. Like this lake we're on at the moment is difficult in winter. It's shutting its doors now as we speak. But there's still, you know, October can be really, really slow, whereas 10 years ago, October was the month. I find November picks up a little bit again, and you can maybe get your last bites on a lake that shuts up for winter. But when you're confident with your bait and you're catching fish and you're moving about, I mean, I'm fishing lakes at the moment. I'm fishing lots of lakes because I've given my syndicate up, so I'm really enjoying fishing lots and lots of lakes. And the same approach is working on all of them because the bait's right. The way I put it out, I can fine it right off when the water's still, and when you've got a real big chop on them, because some of the lakes are 60, 70 acre I'm fishing, you've got to get that bait down. So you've got to work the lake, work it out. If you've got a small head of fish, you know, but the big fish, you can still get away with full boilies out there, but you just cut it all down there. Yeah, some lakes react to a lot more smellier bait. Some, you know, basically I'll take some out of that. Mainline baits I'll quite happily take out the bag, and I'm sure, you know, other products from other companies are the same. There's some that just work, but just read the situation, put it in as and when you think, but get your confidence in your bait. And it's this time of the year where you really pick that confidence up, because you might think winter's hard. Believe you me, on low stock waters like we're fishing at the moment, it's as hard as it gets now, because they're having to climatise to that water temperature. You know, like tonight, we've got a full night of rain and a full morning of rain. That will literally you know, drop to the bottom because that rain is so much colder than the water that's in the lake, and it'll just, the fish will find the layers, and we find even now that the zigs and everything aren't doing the same as what they normally used to do because they're just climatising themselves. So when you've got your head round your bait and you're ready to go for it this time of the year, and it's working this time of the year, and you've got a good bait to carry through winter. So I can't put, so the emphasis you put on your bait at this time of the year will really do you proud through the winter months.
As we're moving through the session, I just thought I'd take a moment out to talk to you about bait prep and the importance of bait prep, especially as we're moving into these colder months. So here's a little bit about me and my fishing. I work full time, so I don't get lots of time on the bank, i.e. my sessions are quite short. A 48-hour session for me is very rare, so bait prep is a massive feature and part of my fishing. Short session fishing requires getting bites fast, so during my bait prep at home, I use a lot of liquids. Not only does this add attraction to the lake bed, it also adds it throughout the water column. So 72 hours before I came on this session, I started my bait prep. I soaked my 10ml cell in tap water to soften them up. I believe this makes it better for the carp to digest these baits during the colder months. Once I'm happy with the softness of the boilie, I remove them from the water and add a generous helping of smart liquid. In this instance, I've chose the cell. The smart liquid ensures I've got a constant attraction in my swim, not only on the lake bed, but also in the upper layers. So moving on to the pellet. This one's super simple. Get yourself some Soul Response pellet, tip it in a bucket, some of the hybrid activator liquid, pour it on the pellets so the whole of the pellet is covered, and then just give it a good shake and stir. Over the next 48 hours, remember to give the pellets a regular shake. This will coat them evenly. The pellet will then dry and you will be ready for your session. As you can see, the light is now fading. We're moving into the evening. Nothing much to report. We haven't seen any shows of yet. We're going to sit down, have some dinner, and we'll catch up with you in the morning. Good morning. An hour before first light, we managed a bite. Unfortunately, it's not one of the lake's big ones, but in these conditions, at this time of the year, it's more than welcome. I'm going to slip this one back. We've got a couple of hours left of the session, so you never know, fingers crossed, there might be a chance of another bite. Well, here we are, we're back where we started. The rods are back in the van and we're packed away. It just goes to show, adding a lot of liquid to your bait can get you that all-important bite, even on a cold winter's day. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you managed to take something from it. We'll see you on the next one.